So welcome to some games I hate. Yes, I love doing these episodes because I always talk about a lot of games that I really like, but over the years, things haven't always been rainbows and sunshine here, that is for sure. I've had to endure some very unusual games and have some really terrible times, and I just want to say, for the record here, that some of the reasons why I hate these games are unique. They're unique just to me personally, and they're all personal stories, and I really want to take you on that journey today. I will ask you guys, what are some games that you can't stand, that you hate, you bought, you're like, I really want to enjoy this game, and I can't. Everything is against it for me. Oh my God, I can't take it anymore. Let me know down below. And just as an update for another game that I absolutely hate, it is still here on my shelf. Look at this. I will move this out of the way. We have Double Dungeons up here holding up the shelf. This is a game that I got in the early 90s that I absolutely cannot stand. I hate the game, so it's holding up the shelf for real games. That's the way I've always looked at it. It was a dungeon exploring game that did not live up to the hype that I had built up in my own mind. And my update is this. When I was down in Arizona at the Game On Expo, I walked past a table and I was able to get a box for Double Dungeons. I'm a sadomasochist, I know. Why would I do this? It was $5. Now look, the box is a little ratted, it's not so hot, all of that. But I was like, you know what? I want to have this just to remember that terrible memory from back then and how that game did not live up to my expectations and all that. And I have the box finally. And for $5, how could I go wrong? Now on to the real meat and potatoes of this episode. We have to go back to 1987. I walked into an arcade. I played a game that I could not believe. It was Street Fighter 1. And back then, you had these giant pads that you would punch to do your punches and kicks and all that. It's crazy. There was a 6-button version of it released later on, and I fell in love. I could not believe the size of the characters on the screen. You could play against other people and fight your way around the world in a huge tournament. I loved it. It was just like Enter the Dragon for me. I was like, this is amazing, and I think that's actually what they based the game on a little bit. So I was so excited when I got my very own Turbografx in 1990. And in early 91, I went down to the States with my parents and I picked up this. Right here. Here's my original box. I know it's really coming apart here over the years, but I picked up this Fighting Street. And just in case you didn't know, it's a CD. I don't, isn't that so funny back then? They put this giant CD thing so you would know what it is. It's a CD-ROM game. And I was excited to have this experience of Street Fighter at home. But what happened here? Look at this, number one. It's called Fighting Street. And I only found this out lately that Bandai Namco back then owned the name Street Fighter. And so they licensed it to Capcom. I think they're still licensing it to this day. That's a little bit of a thing behind the scenes that we're still trying to 100% figure out. So Capcom released Fighting Street in the arcade as, you know, obviously Street Fighter 1, but when it came home for the PC Engine and the Turbografx version, they didn't want to pay royalties, so they just called it Fighting Street. Isn't that funny? What a strange thing. I had to go and do some research on that. If anybody knows any more, let me know in the comments below, because it's a fascinating story. Okay, we have to get to the game. How was it? I hated it. I really did, and I really aspired to like this game. I would play it every day when I came home from school. I had this great fighting game on CD-ROM, which was a huge deal. I will say the music is very, very good. The music is very, very good. It's just everything else that's really bad. It's nice to see that the characters were so big, but there was such a lack of frames of animation. It was so floaty and laggy. It was almost, and I still say it, I was just capturing footage for this the other day, it's unplayable. It really is. It's unplayable, and it's really horrendous, and I was so disappointed when I got it home. And the thing is I would invite all of my friends over, and I was like, hey, look at this fighting game. I was trying to hype it up to them. And I think that's why I hate it, because I really was trying to sell it to everybody else as being something that was really good. I was trying to pretend, and it never lived up to that. And my friends, I remember playing it. I remember we were all taking a bus to go see Akira back in like 1990. And before we all went out, we honestly played the heck out of this game, and all my friends were swearing. They were so frustrated at it. But we really liked the faces on the screen. But then what became a thing of hilarity for many, many years was when you would lose a match and the opponent would taunt you.
But don't forget there are many gods like you all over the world.
And we all would laugh at that section of the game and say, that is so hilarious. Like, what were they doing with the voice? In the arcade, it even kind of sounded like that. It was like, at home, it was like, whoa.
All right.
And that's where the game became a little bit legendary for that. Me and my friend Andrew for years would always quote that. There are many guys like you all over the world. Very, very funny stuff. And there was kind of a couple of bonus games that were interesting and all that. But overall, the game did not come together. And I even remember when Street Fighter 2 came out, and I had friends of mine from the arcade days when we were playing Street Fighter 2 so hardcore, would come over to my house and I'd say, this is Street Fighter 1. And they were blown away. They're like, whoa, this is Street Fighter 1. But it wasn't very good. And it's one of those games that I look back on and it's just, it aspires to be like the arcade game and it doesn't quite get there. And for me, a real disappointment. Okay, the Christmas of 1989, I got a Sega Genesis and I couldn't be happier. I mean, that was a machine I was so hyped for. I finally got it and I'm like, I need games. And so, me and my family went across the border and we got some legendary games like Revenge of Shinobi and not Thunderblade, I got that too. That wasn't very good. And I got this, Alex Kidd in Enchanted Castle. Now, for anybody who forgets Alex Kidd in Enchanted Castle, or Alex Kidd in general, this was honestly during the Sega Master System days, he was like the mascot for Sega. That's how we all looked at it. We looked at Opa Opa, and we looked at Alex Kidd as the mascots. This is before Sonic came onto the scene and all that. So Alex Kidd was the big action platformer for the Master System and the Sega Genesis, it would seem. And so I was an Alex Kidd fan. I didn't mind it. I would go to all my friends' place and play it on the Sega Master System, and we enjoyed it. We had a great amount of fun back then. So how could I go wrong with this? Oh my gosh. Like, it's so funny. A couple of years ago, I talked about my favorite Genesis game, which is Revenge of Shinobi. And I talked about the story of going across the border and getting this. And I rewatched the video to see if there's any points about crossing the border or anything I'd forgotten. And when I was talking about the story about Revenge of Shinobi, and I'm like, oh, and I got Alex Kidd. It was just a pretty good game. I don't know why I said that in the video. I don't think I want to get into the negativities. I just want to talk about Revenge of Shinobi. So let's talk about it. What the problem was, I start off in the first level, and the music is just grating. It's so horrible. I was playing it the other day, and I'm like, oh, this music like grates through my soul. And so I start playing it, and you're running through like a bit of a town, and the hit detection and the lag on your punches and your kicks is so horrible that you will die so many times in the stupidest ways. You really have to walk very slow, stop, and punch. Yes, it's an old school game. We know what it is. And that alone, the gameplay-wise, didn't work for me. There were some secrets in the game, but they weren't secret enough. It wasn't a kind of a Mario style of game. It wasn't really expansive. It wasn't really thought out really well. It was just like, oh, we'll put a little underground thing here just for the sake of it. Not really great level design. But what sinks it for me was the jankin', which is rock, paper, scissors. And you could lose just by playing that. You get to a boss, and you'd have to go rock, paper, scissors. And if you did the wrong thing, you'd die. And that was it. It was over for you. So disappointing. It's charming. It's charming, and is it nostalgic for me? Absolutely. Does it remind me of 1990, and my birthday, going to get it with my parents across the border? Yeah. Was I excited? Sure. Did I play it? Did I get something out of it? I tried to, but overall, this is a game that I really don't like. It's a game I really don't like. And when I was looking for games to talk about, I was like, we're talking about Alex Kidd. It's going to happen today. And it happened. Now we have a few games left. And this game, I had to buy it again because I sold it when I was like 20, 21 years old. And to buy some other real cool games back then. Because this game wasn't good. But I have to explain why. it wasn't. And here it is, let's just show it. Ranma Half Hard Battle on the Super Nintendo. Now, I'm a fighting game fan, and I was so excited to get any fighting game back then. You know, it's just during the Street Fighter 2 era when fighting games were hot, so every company was cashing in, trying to do their own fighting game, and that's where this came in. And this comes at a very interesting time, is because there was a few Christmases back then that were legendary. As I just mentioned, the Sega Genesis and getting the Turbografx CD-ROM, legendary. I love my parents forever for giving me those amazing memories for a lifetime. But there was a strange time between those days and when I would get my 3DO, which was a system that I really hated. And yes, there's a picture of me getting my 3DO back when I was 20 years old, and I'm sitting there, I'm not very happy. It's been memed on by people. Other people have taken photos recreating that photo. And I just want to say, I always thought that was so hilarious to capture that moment. So between when I was 16 and 20, there was a dark time, there was a strange time, and it has to do with something. I went through a breakup with the girlfriend I was at the time, and I was just in a very low kind of mode. There wasn't a lot of big video games out at that time to get for Christmas. There wasn't anything that exciting. My parents were really great. I asked for a couple of games. I asked for Ranma Half Hard Battle because I saw it in video game magazines, and I thought this is going to be great stuff. You know, I love anime. I love Ranma Half. I was watching that anime back then, so a fighting game based on that would be great. Well, so we thought. First of all, I just want to say that they redrew the artwork. You know, so this is not the original Japanese artwork. This is somebody they hired to redraw that. Why not just use the original Japanese artwork? This has always been something that's driven me crazy over the years. I hate it when companies have done that, especially in the 90s. I hated it so much. It's like, please use the original artwork. So that was one thing that was against it. But overall, I wanted it to be a really great Street Fighter, and it's not. It's an average game at best, but it was also the time period where everything was a little bit low for me. I was feeling a little bit low myself, my breakup. Everything seemed really darker, and there wasn't really, as I say, a lot of great games, so I got this, and I remember playing Christmas morning, and it just was kind of a bummer. It just was such a bummer. The characters were great, special moves were fine. It was just so mediocre. I mean, I'm just doing moves and I'm doing little small combos and I'm like, I don't even care. I don't even want to play this game. I'm not even interested. And it was really, really interesting. And I've been thinking about this game. I'd forgotten about it. And I was like, oh my God, it popped back in my head. I'm like, I was thinking about games I hate. I'm like, hey, we got to talk about this. Yeah, it's unfortunate to get an anime that you like and get it turned into a fighting game that was kind of, not so hot. And that was Ranma Hard Battle. It never lived up to my expectations.
I'm a good kid. Ow. I'm a good kid. I won.
Okay, for my final game is a bit of an unusual one because it started out on the Atari Lynx. It did, and I didn't even know about that. I had no clue about it. It's called Slime World, all right? Get your head out of the gutter. Get your head out of the gutter. It's called Slime World, and for some reason, I have two versions of it for the PC Engine. I'm some like crazy sadomasochist. I don't know what's going on here. I have two versions of it. I don't know why I have two copies of it. I have no idea how that happened over the years. But I want to talk about this for a second because, let's flip it around. This is one of those things where I got sold by a cover. And the PC Engine can sell you on covers. Let me tell you, here's a great example. Look at this. Violent Soldier. It's got to have one of the best covers I have ever seen in my entire life. It's so cool, so hand-painted, a shoot 'em up on the PC Engine. This just makes you want to buy the game and play it. And when you play it, it's okay. It's not a terrible shooter by any stretch of the imagination, but it doesn't live up to the hype of the cover. And Slime World was one of those ones where I was like, oh man, look at that. That cover looks amazing. I check out some of the back. I'm like, okay, that looks pretty cool. I'm really into this. And I have a wrong memory. So what I thought, Slime World, I'm like, that reminds me of some arcade game I played as a kid. I was very wrong. I had to do some research into it. I remember playing a game as a kid in the arcade called Xenophobe. And you could play with multiple players, and you just go through side view levels. Beautiful graphics at the time, really cool, fighting xenomorphs on some space station. That was cool stuff. And that's kind of what I don't know why I thought this was that game, because I'm an idiot. I'm a moron, I have no idea. So I start playing this game, and the one thing it has going for it, the artwork on the cover is amazing. I love it. It looks like some anime that we never got type of thing. And that's the one thing that they did. They painted this turd. They really did, because the opening cinematic, the characters talking, things like that, it looks epic, as they go down to the slime world. And you're like, oh, this is gonna be exciting. You go to the slime world, you get to explore this place. Yes, it's a 2D side view platforming game exploring the legendary slime world. And the only thing I can say is I'm the one that got slimed.
He slimed me.
This is the most horrible, disgusting game ever. These other games I talked about, I have my problems with them, but this game I hate. I was playing it again the other day, catching footage, and I could not stand it. The controls are atrocious, moving your character through these side view levels, picking up items, everything is a chore. There's no glimpse of fun in this game. I didn't have any fun at all at any single moment. I was just like, oh, another room of slime. Another room of slime.
Slime! What? It's a river of slime!
It never ends. It never ends. It's like, oh, down here, there's some more slime. I just got killed by slime. Oh, look at that. There's slime dripping from the ceiling onto more slime. Oh, this game actually it's giving me a bit of a headache. Just I'm thinking about it. I'm getting a little worked up. I'm not joking either. This game is horrible. This game, I could only play it for like 10 minutes and I'm like, I can't do any more of this. And it's so sad because the idea in my mind was so built up. And that's a lot of these games, right? There's a lot being built up in your mind, and that's what it all comes down to, I think, for a lot of them, is that our expectations are high. Slime World. I expected this amazing planet that we could explore for hours and stuff like that with our friends, and you don't want to do any of it. You're just like, get me off this planet, get me away from this game. And yeah, so Slime World is one of those PC Engine absolute turds. And I really, I have a hard time saying it because I love the PC Engine. And there's not all the PC Engine games are great, but this is one of the worst ones. I'd give this game a 1 out of 10. I would, and that's being generous, I think. I'll give it the 1 because it had some anime in it, because it had some anime characters that they tried to dress up the game, but you can only dress up a turd so much. Guys, these are some of the games that I wanted to come in and talk about today. Some of these games I absolutely hated over the years. What are some games that you hate? Let me know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.